my name is Starlight. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I'm reaching out to all of you beautiful souls out there. I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight is right now. And I am in the perfect position because I got the sun right behind me as long as I don't move my head too much. So I'm kind of slanted here at this Smet picnic table. So anyway, I really hope you're getting out in nature and, go take your family out for a trip, go out, get them out of the house and try to get them to do different things. And I inspire you to do the same, is to find new things, and that's what Starlight is going to be doing. I was at the library, but I was having a hard time using the computer. So I am going to be going on Facebook and check out what is going on in this area. What kind of free events can Starlight go to? Because Starlight loves to do sports and I love to dance. So try to get your kids to explore, try new things. And anyway, if you are new to my YouTube channel, welcome. And you can find me on YouTube, and that is at Starlight, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman. And you can give this video a thumbs up. Plus, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can leave me a message down below, beep, beep, beep. And also, besides that don't forget the notification bell, and you could share my videos with an ostrich and a zebra. Plus, not only you could share my videos with those animals, you can also check out my playlist and follow me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman Starlight. So today, this is really an important video, and I have definitely known people in my lifetime that has been like this, and I can't say I have been like this, but I, sometimes, a lot of times, we learn by watching other people and how they are, and that's where we get to decide, do I like how they're acting, do I like how they're behaving, how does it affect me? And you could do the same thing with Starlight. How is Starlight affecting me? So you really, and this is how we determine who we really are, is there's going to be many times starting off when we're little kids, once we are old enough to start learning how to crawl and walk and start talking and start going to school, and as we get older, growing up in school, we have that free will to decide on what we want to do, and like I mentioned before, is like you have a little angel here and a little devil here, and you got to decide which side are you gonna play out. Are you gonna, I'm sorry about the background, I cannot help that, is you have to determine who are you gonna follow. Who are you following? Are they a good example or a bad example? And we all have that choice to make in our life, as far as who do we follow, what kind of friends do we hang out with. Are you hanging out with anybody, Starlight? No. Starlight doesn't have time to hang out, and I, it's something how the universe will give me messages where I, was trying to help somebody out, and I realized, it was all me given, I didn't really receive anything from her, so and you gotta pay attention to that, are you the one always giving and not receiving back? So you got to watch out for that, because there's a lot of vampires out there, energy vampires, that is. But today, I really want to talk to you about, are you holding a grudge? How long ago? Because I know this stuff, because I have dealt with this my whole life, with people that are holding a grudge, and they might hold a grudge so long, they forgot why they're even, why am I even holding a grudge all this time? And I have to say, when people hold a grudge towards somebody, and like I said, it could have been something 20 years ago, they're still holding that grudge. They won't forgive that person. And they could be spiteful, very spiteful, where if that person hears that name, boom, they gotta tell you, and they express that person. And sometimes these people could be very, very, very mean with their words, and what they have to say about that person. And there's times, I'm sorry, my hair, I got an itch, the hair is blown in my eye there. And this could have been something that happened, with your family, like, maybe your mom and dad is like that, and maybe their parents were like that, and where they picked up these habits from their family, maybe their father held grudges all the time. And then, the children, they could learn from their parents and to follow those kind of bad role models, as far as like holding a grudge. And I know this, I have experienced this my whole entire life, is people holding grudges, and it could be, it could be something so small, but to them it's huge. And they, anytime, like I said, in conversations, if somebody mentioned anything good about that person is going to have something to say, because their heart, they have not forgiven that person yet. And not only that affects the person that's holding the grudge, it affects everyone, especially, if you're related to that person. It doesn't just affect the person holding a grudge or the person that they have a grudge towards. It could also really affect the people surrounding that person. Because, for example, say if you have even like friends, like say if you had friends and one of your friends has a grudge towards a person that you know. Now you and that person that person has a grudge towards, you and this person gets along great. So now the problem is, because your friend, what you think is a friend, is that friend really a friend? Maybe you're not picking your friends wise, because how do you know that they're not going to have a grudge towards you one day? Do you want that kind of a friend? Is they're holding grudges and they can't forgive somebody about something that could have happened 20 years ago, and they still are holding tight on that thing? And what happens to people when they're holding grudges? Well, it causes a lot of stress in their life. It really does. Some people could actually have health issues, in their body, because it is not healthy to hold grudges at all. When we don't have our hearts right with other people, it doesn't only affect the person that you have a problem with, it affects your whole being, your chakras and all that, and there's so many things in the Bible, how God expects us. So there's so many things. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. And when I say that's a big, here's a big pill to swallow. I had a hard time with that verse for many, many, many years, when I used to read the Bible every day for years. Starlight was such a good girl. I read that Bible, memorizing verses. There's some verses I memorized. In Ephesians, is about protecting your more or less putting the shield of faith on and all that, the whole armor of God and stuff. So Starlight had that memorized. I was like, Starlight was a little preacher in her days. So, there's a lot of things in the Bible, how God really expects us to be, or, how, a lot of stories, a lot of examples in the Bible of why we're not supposed to be a certain way. And, now, some people might have never read their Bible. And, the person that I am actually talking about, no, they don't even believe in God. So there you go. And there's people that will consider them I'm a good person. Look at, but on that note, that person could be very spiteful, you know, and anytime they can get, you know, to you by biting you with their words, they will. They are very spiteful, and they hold grudges, and they have a hard time forgiving. And if you overstep their boundary, you know, watch out. They will attack. They will be spiteful and say something to attack you, whether you don't even you were doing your own business. I mean, like, you know, it could have been something you did when you were 4 years old, you know, and there's that grudge, you know. I remember what you did, you know, at 4 years old. Really, I don't even remember what I'm just throwing that out there to be funny with you, but this is pretty much how that goes with people that are holding grudges. Is, you know, they have to learn to let go. And if they don't know God, that is a big, huge problem, because they don't know God's word, and they don't know how God can bless, you know. And there's it does affect your health when you're not living a godly way. And not that you don't have to go to church to be godly. So you could be godly, and it doesn't mean that you got to go around wearing a cross necklace to prove that, or carry a Bible everywhere you go to prove that you're godly. God knows, you know, God knows his own, you know, his own children, just like the devil. The devil knows which ones are his, or which ones are kind of serving two masters, or the ones that are not his, you know. And that's where, you know, when you're really living for God, that's when you're definitely gonna be tested. So we all have a choice to do what we want to do and choose what we're gonna do. But is what we do the right thing to do? And nobody's perfect. I'm right here. Starlight is not perfect. Not at all. I you know, I'll never make it, you know. Even you know, as many things as I have to learn, I got a list of things, you know, like a big list of, a big, huge list of things that I want to work on in 2025, things that I want to let go of, you know, things that I want to change, things that I need these changes, you know, to become my greatest version and to be that change that I want to see in the world. So even if you see me on my YouTube channel and you don't like things that I say, or you don't like this, or you don't like that, guess what? It doesn't matter, because, you know, as much as you can find fault in me, you know, it doesn't really matter. I don't want to point faults out in you, but we all have things that we got to take care of. We all have flaws. We all have, you know, so it's not for me to point fingers at anybody else, but I am a teacher and an influencer, so my job is to look at things in my surroundings, or even in my life, you know, even things that I've experienced in my past, the wisdom, you know, that I learned. We got to let go of the past, which it doesn't happen overnight. So to let go of the past, it's a you know, everybody's different, and there's layers, you know, layers and layers and layers, you know, of letting go of the past. But with that past, is what we can do is take the lessons that we've learned, and that's what Starlight does. Is I take the lessons that I've learned, and I've been going through a healing process. So yeah, there's times that, you know, Starlight was, you know, talking a lot about the past, but then it takes time to let go and to heal from the trauma and the, you know, the things that you've endured as, you know, a child, growing up as a teenager, you know, even being an adult. So we all are going through a healing. If you're working on yourself, that is how you're going to get healed. But if you're too distracted and you're too busy, you know, like following the things of the world, which is, you know, following the Hollywood stars and following football and keeping up with the sports entertainment, you know, and, you know, to me, I'd rather play it than to sit down and watch that shit, you know, really. Yeah, Starlight, rather, you want to play football? Okay, let's go out and play it. Why sit inside on a couch? You're going to get a good workout, you know, and it doesn't really matter about those teams, you know. So, or the Hollywood stars keeping up with I don't even know these people's names. So Starlight, I hear these names, I don't even know who they are. Quebec, I don't even want to try to say their names, but I hear certain names that stand out all the time, but my memory's getting better every day. So I hear it in my head, this name that I'm always hearing on Hollywood, So we don't have to keep up with the Joneses, and so when it comes to holding a grudge, by holding a grudge and not forgiving those people and by being spiteful, it is blocking things to come in your life. You're probably wondering, how come this hasn't happened, or how come this isn't happening, and here you are, not forgiving people, and you're holding a grudge. And then if somebody really looked at what you could possibly do, it, they could find stuff and say, well, you know what, you're not perfect to have such a grudge over here at this person. There's people that are fake, and they don't really show their true colors, only behind the scenes, when nobody's watching and nobody's listening, at least when they don't think that anybody, they don't realize that God heard everything. God witnessed all of it. So you might be able to get away with stuff with your family or your friends or, the people down the street or your neighbors, but you can't get away with shit with God. God knows all and sees all, even behind closed doors. God knows even your thoughts inside your head. God knows your emotions. So you can't fool or trick God. And it does say in the Bible, we're supposed to forgive others. And how do you expect God to forgive you if you can't have compassion on other people and forgive them and say, you know what? I wasted all these years holding a grudge against you, where all they had to do is let them go. They didn't have to hold a grudge. Many of us on here can actually say that we've had some people do some wicked shit in our life. You would think that, hey, I have every right to hold a grudge, but you know what? Starlight has forgiven all those people. I won't be able to forget, but I forgave all of them. Where at this day, there's people that have done some wicked shit. And here when they kind of, not that they cry and, call me up, but there's times that they call me up and they're looking for advice from me. So I forgave them because that's how I know I'm a child of God. So I know it. I don't want to hold that in my heart space. People can have heart attacks and blood pressure problems by holding that stuff in. It's not good to hold all that stuff in. After a while holding that in, your heart gets heavy. It gets heavy. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your heart space. So by saying, you know what, yeah, I got my own shit that I know I'm not perfect. I know I'm not good. I got a lot of my own little demons inside of me. So you know what? That thing that they did long time ago, I gotta let that go. I gotta let that go. I gotta let God deal with it. Let God deal with that person. Say, God, you know what? I'm gonna let this problem go. I've been holding on it too long. There's certain things, through my life that, I might, a certain day or certain things, in my everyday life, or maybe if I'm driving somewhere and, where it reminds me of that person and, that is not really healthy for you, is to hold that grudge. And you want to be a good example to your family and your kids and your friends. And like I said, it doesn't just affect you as a human being. If you have a grudge towards one of your family members, that affects the whole family. It doesn't just affect you having a problem. It affects the whole family, because now if a family member has a grudge towards an uncle or aunt or even their grandkids, for heaven's sakes, oh, I'm so upset because they did this and they, like, who are you? Really, who are you? We all come short of the glory of God. We all fail. We all mess up. So I'm no better than you, and you know better than I am. We're here to learn. We're here to experience. We're here to learn our lessons so we can move on to other lessons that we have to learn. So, you've got to let that shit go. Really, you do. And say, I've been holding on this too long. And you'd be surprised when you say, you know what? I'm not even around the person. Why am I holding this grudge? Are you going to still hold the grudge after the person passes away? Like, or how are you going to feel when that person passes away? Are you going to feel relieved? Or are you going to kind of feel bad that you could have talked that problem out, or you could have solved the problem, or maybe just let them go, So you got to be mindful of how you are and how you're treating other people and the people that you surround you, because if you're holding grudges, it could teach your kids, you could teach your kids bad examples, or maybe even friends. It could, where all three of you could be friends, but no, you're holding a grudge, and you got to let that grudge go. You got to forgive that person for whatever they did, who knows how long they did something to you. You got to let it go and let God take care of that person. God is the one to take care of business. You don't have to hold that in your heart forever, and you got to let it go and let God. So anyway, I love you. And like I said, it causes so many problems. Blessings will open up. Things that, you might be single, wondering, how come I'm single? How come I can't find the guy or girl in my life? Well, maybe God's like, you remember, like 20 years ago that you want to, like, forgive that person? Well, I'm not going to bless you with that guy or girl that you want and you desire in your life, because you're having issues, with people, and you have a grudge. That it's no excuse. There's no excuses with this, because we could blame it on our family and said that's how they brought us up. But no, you got to choose in your own walk, like what you're going to take from your parents and what you're going to let go. There's no perfect parent out there in the world, and they're not always going to make the right choices, but you have the right to decide on how you're going to respond and if you accept what they do or don't. So anyway, I love you. This is Starlight. You could give this video a thumbs up. You could share my videos with your family, your friends, and also, let me see, a caterpillar, and what other kind of, a fox. You can share my videos with a fox, and of course a fox on this topic. Besides that, don't forget the notification bell, and you can also check out my playlist, and you can follow me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K, Ding with Starlight. I love you all. This is, we gotta let go of something that happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. You gotta let it go. You know what? I'm not gonna have you I'm not gonna hold space in my head over that thing that happened a long time ago. I gotta forgive you. I'm gonna forgive you. I don't need to be around you, but I gotta let it go. God, I'm letting go of this today. I pray that, help me to let go. And God, I'm going to let you deal with that person. I don't want to hold on it any longer. It's too heavy in my heart space. It's causing me a lot of pain and, a lot of anger and frustration. I am letting that go so I can have love come in my life, and, where God will forgive me, because, nobody's perfect. So I love you so much, and I love myself. So anyway, I do love you. This is Starlight. And yeah, you gotta, if you know somebody that has grudges, you could tell them about this video. Hey, check out this Starlight chick, you know, she's got a video for you because she's got a point, you know, it's not good for your health, blood pressure, your heart rate, and all that stuff. It could really mess you up and being spiteful and all that stuff. So anyway, I love you so much. This is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight, love, light, and peace.